Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to GEEXX Watch. Today I want to talk about the 2007 film Transformers, produced and directed by Michael Bay, an image of which you will see here. I got the collector's edition, two disc collector's edition. Now see the images behind me. I couldn't find one to match exactly. I am going to spoil this film a lot because there are things I want to discuss. So I'll give a brief. Don't throw that yet. Brief overview. Sam Witwicky is the primary character of the film. He's a geeky, socially awkward, kind of a dweeb and a jerk. Teenager in high school. Nobody likes him. We're supposed to sympathize with him, but he is kind of a jerk. But like, he's trying to sell his possessions on eBay, and he's doing it in class instead of doing a class presentation. His father buys him a used car as a gift, and it turns out the car's one of the Transformers. Transformers are on the planet Earth looking for the Allspark, which is a cube of great power, which can turn other machines into Autobots or Decepticons. The good robots, the Autobots show up. Decepticons are here. It turns out that Megatron crashed on Earth thousands of years ago, was frozen in the Arctic ice. He gets thawed. They fight. Sam attracts a pretty girl. Yada yada yada. This is pretty standard Michael Bay fare as films go, and Michael Bay is one of the reasons I'm going to probably wind up spoiling more of this film. I want to talk about him as a director, but before I do that, and I will be trashing him and the film a bit, but before I do that, I will say I really like this film. It's probably my favorite Michael Bay film. Background of the film production, stuff like that. They Michael Bay took like a 30% cut to his salary to make sure the film could get made, to get the film, as much on budget as possible. Industrial Light and Magic did a lot of the special effects. This was also done through DreamWorks, so Steven Spielberg did have a bit of a hand in this. They had to rewrite the script a bit. It was Steven Spielberg who suggested a boy in his car storyline, which is what the film basically is. It's Sam Witwicky and Bumblebee. It's kind of their journey. The other stuff just goes on around it. Damn, I had a thought, now I lost it. The film did well at the box office. Most Michael Bay films do, because they're just popcorn movies. Most people praised the Transformers sections of the film and kind of criticized the human story elements of it. Something I agree with. The human story elements were probably one of the weakest parts of the film. The Transformers special effects or some of the most intricate computer graphics that had ever been done. ILM had to find ways to upgrade their processing speed. Doing a single frame of film took like 36 hours, something like that, to just do a single frame of film, because the graphics were so intense. They spent a lot of time figuring out which vehicles to use and then getting all the parts right. They initially tried to make the transformations follow the laws of physics, but that didn't look very interesting, so they kind of shoved that the window to try to make them more exciting. They tried to make the robots look and behave as realistically as possible, though. Wheels on the ground kind of thing, and transforming on the move and on the fly. And some of the transformation scenes are just amazing. There's a scene towards the end of the film where the Transformers are driving down the highway trying to flee, trying to get Sam to safety, and they're being chased by the Decepticons, and one of them, who is like a demolition vehicle, like a construction vehicle, transforms on the highway mid drive, and then Optimus does the same thing. He transforms, turn around and fight him. Those scenes are just incredible because like they're moving, they're rolling forward, and all of a sudden they're, you can see their tires go off the ground and they're dragging their machine parts through concrete as they're sliding forward to keep moving. Some of my favorite transformations are Megatron, because he transforms very quickly and into multiple shapes. He just does things. As the leader of the Decepticons and the most powerful Decepticon, his transformations are unreal looking, and they're so good and so quick and smooth. I love watching all the transformation scenes in this film. They're all really, really good. And one of the things that make me like this film as much as I do, but as well as the film did financially, was financial success in the theaters, critics did not like this film. As I said, they praised the Transformers storyline, trash the human elements, and yeah, that's the weakest part. Sam Witwicky, Megan Fox's character, who I can't remember her name, the character's name, just the actress's name. The military guys, the government guys, just some of them were okay, and some of them were not. And here's where I'm going to trash Michael Bay a bit. Michael Bay basically makes the same movie over and over again. There's a ton of lens flare, a lot of military police. He tends to portray certain characters in a certain way. People who follow the rules are almost always wrong. It's the people who break the rules and do what needs to get done, and do whatever needs to be done to get the job done. Those are the real heroes. He loves the military and police so much you could almost call it a fetish. Certain aspects, like the boots on the ground type of military and police, not like the commanders and the generals and things like that, but the guys who are like the actual combat soldiers and the police officers on the beat. He loves them. It's the guys in charge he thinks are always portrayed as less than stellar. But he winds up using the exact same shots, like shot composition, in every film. There's like, if you were to watch all of his films back to back, there was easily at least 5 shots you could take from each film, and they show up in every film. One is like the circle, like the central, like you have some central image, and the camera pans around that. You've seen it in I think it was Bad Boys, where the 2 cops and the camera like goes around them in a 360 circle as they stand up. There's all kinds of shots like that. All the lens flares. Michael Bay also seems to have a type when it comes to women. If you look at the 2 women who are supposed to be attractive, let's put it that way. If you take all the women who are supposed to be attractive in all of his films and line them up like the sexy hot chicks, like Megan Fox, or another female character in this film who is computer programmer. I'm sorry, I can't remember their names, the characters' names. But if you were to put them side by side, they look very much alike. They have a very similar facial structure. They must use the same moisturizer because they're the exact same shiny of facials. Their skin is the same shiny. The female lead in Battleship, the one female soldier, has the exact same shiny skin, very similar facial structure. Same thing with the female characters in Transformers 2 and Transformers 3. Their skin is all that same texture shiny. They've all got the same body style. They've all got the same very similar facial structure. There was another movie I was thinking of. I'm not as familiar with Bad Boys, but Probably the only film where the hot, sexy chick does not follow Michael Bay's carbon copy woman is Liv Tyler in Armageddon. I don't know if you hear that siren. It's quite a ways off, but it's very loud. Unusual to hear one around here. But yeah, Michael Bay is not a good filmmaker. He makes fun films. Don't get me wrong. I love this film. It's tons of fun to watch. But that's all he's good at, is making the kind of movies where you shut your brain off and eat popcorn and watch it. You can't think and pay attention to these films because you will notice all the flaws. And there are a lot. Shh, stop it. Let's look at the opening scene of this film. It's kind of a it's an intro scene. Takes place in a military base in Qatar in the Middle East, and it opens up with like some airships with some soldiers. You get some dialogue with the soldiers to introduce them. They land. It's late afternoon, and then you see another helicopter coming in, and you find out that it's one of the Decepticons. But the scene starts off. It's late afternoon, and within like 20 seconds, it's sunset. And within like 40 seconds, it is dead of night. Michael Bay's editing sucks. There are a couple of the scenes in this film where the editing just does not make sense. And as the Transformers series goes on, it gets worse. You know, there's a scene at the end of the film, I mentioned the chase scene where the Decepticons are chasing the Autobots down the freeway. Before that, they were in Hoover Dam, at Hoover Dam, with the Allspark cube, which they give to Sam to take to. He's going to take it in the city to hide it. And they say it's 22 miles to Mission City from Hoover Dam, but like Hoover Dam's right next to Las Vegas. Las Vegas is closer. Like if you're going to take it to the city to hide it, I mean, if you're not worried about civilian population getting in the way, Mission City is a fictional city. It doesn't exist outside the Transformers universe. But there are at least two cities closer than that are real that could have been used. And again, you know, some of the editing makes no sense. You know, the Autobots say that, you know, when the Autobots figure out where the cube is being held, it shows them at some place that looks like Hoover Dam. Maybe it's a different dam. Who knows? But it looks like Hoover Dam. And they say it's like 200 miles away. And they have to drive there. And they seem to get there very, very quickly. That time, there's, you know, they take the cube of the city to hide it in the city from the Decepticons. When the Decepticon, then their plan is to have Sam get in a helicopter and fly away from the city. It's like this, your plan was to hide it in the city. Now you're telling it to leave the city. There are so many things in this film that just don't make sense. Story-wise, structure-wise, decisions that are made that make no sense. And again, I like this film. I watched it several times. I watched it again before doing this. But Sam Witwicky is painful to watch. The edits are occasionally sometimes just and it's okay to like Michael Bay films. You know, I'm not saying you shouldn't like them. I've admitted they're fun to watch. But he is such a bad filmmaker. You know, that's got to be... I don't know how these films of his make money because they are so badly written. These things, the writing quality in Michael Bay films is about as good as a bad science fiction TV film. They're at best grade B quality television sci-fi or action, whatever you want to call them. They're not great. How does this guy keep getting money to make films, and how do these films keep making money? Yes, they're fun to watch, but damn, they're not good. Okay, I've ranted and complained about Michael Bay long enough. I do like this film. It is fun to watch. for some reason, I do not necessarily this is not my guilty pleasure film. This is one of those films where I like it despite it being bad. Not because it's a guilty pleasure is a film I like even though it's bad. Sometimes because it's bad. I don't feel guilty watching this film. I'll have to discuss my guilty pleasure films some other time. My guilty pleasure films are actually films I don't actually own. I'll have to discuss them at some point. But I do like this film. The Transformers scenes are amazing and incredible and so much fun to watch. And there are elements of the story that are good. There are just as many elements of the film that are not. I would give this film a B-, and the only reason I'm giving it a rating that high is because it is fun to watch, which I have repeatedly said several times. I'm sure you're getting tired of me saying it. And so, as always, thanks for watching. As always, my stuff is crap. And until next time, good hunting.